Hey, y'all. Welcome to Boozy Bees Books and Cocktails. I'm so glad you're here today. We have got a great book today called Briar Club, and it's by Kate Quinn. And she's a new author for me. I've never read any of her books. She writes a lot of World War II books, and I had kind of gotten away from all of that because there's just so many war books out there. But on my quest to read about interesting women and older women, I found this book. And it hasn't been out that long, so it's kind of new. And it's just really fun and interesting. And it's set in the 1950s during the McCarthy era, which I didn't really know a lot about. I kind of had heard about some things, but I really had not taken much into the situation. So the book is set in Washington, D.C., and it's about a boarding house. And the landlady's name is Miss Nelson, and she has two children. She has Pete and Lena, and Pete is around 13 years old, and Miss Nelson is divorced, and so she uses Pete as her handyman, and he takes care of all the situations in the house. When the new tenants come in, he carries their bags up, and he really becomes very good friends with them, where Miss Nielsen is very strict. She goes through their luggage to make sure what they're bringing into her house. And then Lena is 9 or 10 years old, and Kate describes her as having a lazy eye. The mom kind of just pushes her to the side. She needs glasses, but Miss Nielsen says she doesn't have any money to get her new glasses. And so Lena is really whiny, and she kind of gets on everybody's nerves. And at the beginning of the book, there's already tenants there. They pretty much stay to themselves. Not much is going on in the house. So a tenant named Grace March comes in, and Grace is very outgoing. She's very hip. She dresses very nicely. And one of her favorite things to do is make sun tea. And so she starts inviting her neighbors in, and this is where we start meeting all these wonderful characters. And Grace is just a beautiful character. The author just did a great job describing all of these women. And so Grace and Peter make really good friends, and so he's always hanging around, and he's a young boy, and so he's crazy about all these women, and he just falls in love with every one of them in a different way, but he loves Grace the most. And so she makes sun tea, and she invites her neighbors in, and eventually they all start filing in, and for some reason they end up telling their life story. So each chapter is about each woman. And so we meet Fliss, and she is a European lady that comes in, and her husband is in the military. He's a doctor, and she's a new mother. And if you have children of your own, you know that it's exhausting at times. And so Fliss tries to make herself look perfect all the time. She wears beautiful clothing. She's always got cookies in her hand, trying to give someone freshly baked cookies. And so they think that she's Miss Perfect, but behind closed doors, she feels like that she's not a very good mother, and she struggles with postpartum depression, which they didn't really know at that time that's what it was called. And she just kind of falls apart. And Grace steps in and says, "Hey, we all been there. We know that you're tired. Let me help you." And so she helps Fliss with the baby, and so that becomes one of the people that she draws into her crowd. And then there's Bee, and Bee is when the men went off to war, she played baseball, and at the time, women played baseball, not softball. So Bee was a professional baseball player, and so everything that she talks about is about baseball. And so when she talks about life, it's about baseball and how baseball can be told in a baseball story. So it's just a lot of fun. She's really a fun character. There's Nora, and Nora works in the archives, the National Archives there in Washington, D.C., and she works two jobs. She works for the National Archives, and then she works for a diner. And in the diner, she meets this man, and he is a gangster. And he starts trying to get her to go out with him. And her parents, her dad, was a police officer, and her brother is a police officer. So she's like, I don't want to have anything to do with police officers, and I definitely don't want to have anything to do with a gangster. But she ends up, falling for this gangster. And her boss tells her, you can't do this. We're not going to have this guy around here. And so she kind of puts that on hold, and that relationship is kind of a great relationship. And so then the other one is Cora, and Cora is she works in the State Department, and she's dating a man that's an FBI agent. And so we've just got all these crazy, great characters coming together. And they go to New York. Lena finally gets some glasses, and she is in the junior bake-off, with Pillsbury. And so they all go to New York, and it's a fun trip, and they learn a lot about each other then. And then about, I would say 3/4 way in the book, something tragic just completely happens in this boarding house, and it just shakes the whole house, and it's the craziest thing. I think I gasp, and I don't normally gasp at things in a book, but she made it just come alive, and it totally shocked me. And I was just dumbfounded because of the way it ended up. But it's a really great book. And another thing that Kate Quinn does in this book is each woman, they start a dinner club on Thursday nights. The Miss Nielsen, the landlady, she leaves, and so this house comes alive with all these parties on Thursday night. So each woman brings a recipe, and in the book, Kate writes the recipe down. So that's kind of fun in the book. I'd love to be a part of the Briar Club. And then 2, I want to go back and make some of the recipes in there. So to the cocktail. This was pretty easy because at first I was like, as I was reading the book, I was thinking, okay, I will put a play on the sun tea because Grace does bring liquor into it. She gets people to talk by drinking liquor. So she puts it in her sun tea. But at the end of the book, Grace makes a cocktail, and it's called Good Night and Good Luck. And so this was super easy for me. I was like, okay, well, I've already got my cocktail ready, so we're going to make the Good Night, Good Luck cocktail. And it is a champagne cocktail, which, I love. And it is super easy to make. And it also calls, if you want to, you can change out the champagne for Prosecco. But I didn't have it. It's been snowing here. I didn't get a chance to go to the liquor store, and I had a bottle of champagne, so why not? So we're going to use, this is elderflower liqueur. And so the ingredients is 1 ounce of vodka, and I just happened to have Grey Goose at home, so that's what I brought. So 1 ounce of Grey Goose, and then 1 ounce of this elderflower, and it's Saint Germain, and then champagne and lemon. So it says in the recipe to fill your glass about halfway full of champagne, so we're going to do that first. And we love the bubbles. Bubbles are great. So there's about halfway full. And it says a splash of lemon, but I'm going to put about 1/4 ounce of lemon in there. And this is very strong, very strong. So I'm just warning you that it's got a kick to it. 1 ounce of the elderflower. And this is kind of like a French 75. I would say it was a spin-off of a French 75. And then we're going to, it's not as sweet as this French 75. I'm going to put an ounce of vodka in it. And just because we're going to put a little lemon twist in it. And I like to stir it up a little bit with the lemon twist. So as always, we'll put the recipe at the bottom. Please hit subscribe. Please read this wonderful book, The Briar Club by Kate Quinn. Cheers and thank you.